What is up, DTV? As always, I am Eric Daystrom here to review Game of Thrones Season 6, Episode 9, The Battle of the Bastards. This was a huge episode. Two things I've wanted to happen for a while happened, so if you haven't seen the episode, stop watching this review right now because I'm going to talk all about it. Okay, so I'm going to start with what happened in Meereen. So the Siege of Meereen is underway. There's all kinds of chaos. You know, Tyrion's talking to Daenerys about what they should do. Daenerys is pissed. She's basically like, look, I'm going to take my dragons and I'm just going to kill everyone. I'll kill them all. But Tyrion, being, as I think, the most level-headed person on the show, says, listen, do you know what your father's plan was? Well, my father told my brother told me, he was basically going to take Wildfire and burn everything and everyone to the ground. Burn them all. Men, women, children, babies, innocent people. Don't be like your father. You're better than that. So, they go to talk to the masters. You know, Tyrion's trying to be diplomatic about it. And the three masters basically say, look, leave Meereen, let us take back what's ours, let us butcher your dragons, and just leave. Your reign is over. And Daenerys looks at them and says, no, my reign has just begun. In comes Drogon. She gets on Drogon, flies away. She's joined by her other dragons, Viserion and Rhaegar. And everyone's just in awe looking at them. You know, and seeing three dragons flying, pretty much fully grown, is a cool spectacle to see. You know, we see the sons of the Harpy just slaughtering innocent people, but in comes Dany's new Dothraki army, led by Daario. They take care of them. Daenerys with the dragons, they take out the master ships. They just set them all on fire. So that was really cool. So finally, you know, Grey Worm executes two of the masters, but they let one live, and Tyrion says to the one they let live, listen, tell everyone what happened here. So, later in the episode, and this I really like, the Greyjoys have showed up. Theon and Yara, they have beat Euron Greyjoy to the punch, and they present Daenerys with a proposal, an offer. Theon and Tyrion have actually met before back in Season 1, and Tyrion kind of goads him and says, you know, you insulted me, how have things gone for you since, you know? Not too well, I take it. And so basically, they make their offer, and they mention they have an uncle who also has ships, and Daenerys says, well, why shouldn't I just wait for him? They answer back and say, well, with him, you're going to have to marry him. With us, you don't need to do that. So then Yara gave a very clever answer. Daenerys says to Yara, has a woman ever ruled the Iron Islands? And Yara says to her back, has a woman ever ruled Westeros? I thought that was very clever, but she looks at Theon and says, you know, what's wrong with you? Because Theon's a boy, but Theon says, I'm not fit to rule. Yara is. And I really love how much he has stood behind Yara since he returned to the Iron Islands. I like that. So basically, Daenerys says, okay, I'll accept your proposal. I'll accept your offer. You support me as the rightful queen. I'll help you take back the Iron Islands. But she says, your way of doing things has to end. No more raping and robbing and all that. And Yara says, you know, that's our way of life. But Daenerys says, not anymore. Yara agrees to it. They make a pact, which was pretty cool. So, you know, there was, once again, forward momentum, which has been what this season, to me, has really been all about, is moving forward. So that's the story with Meereen. So now I'm going to get to the north in Winterfell, because it's big. So, basically, Jon, Sansa, and everyone, they go to meet Ramsay on the field to try to talk terms. Ramsay, you know, insults Jon. He keeps calling him bastard. He keeps trying to go to Sansa. Like, you know, he's just Ramsay being Ramsay. Jon says, listen, no one has to die. Why don't me and you just settle this one-on-one? Ramsay goes, what are you, nuts? I've heard about what a good swordsman you are. I know I won't win. I have the numbers, you don't. And then Jon says, fine, but then Ramsay says, and don't forget, I have your little brother Rickon. And then Sansa goes, how do we know you really have him? They show them the head of Shaggy Dog, who was Rickon's direwolf, and they believe it. They realize he really does have him. Everyone departs, but before they depart, Ramsay gives one final taunt. He says, listen, I haven't fed my hounds in a week. I'm sure they're going to enjoy all of you. So then we go inside a tent where, you know, Jon and everyone are talking strategy with Davos and Tournament Giants being. So finally, at the end of it, Jon's talking to Sansa. Sansa says, we don't have the men. You don't know Ramsay like I do. Whatever you are planning, he's going to expect. And Jon tries to plead his case and says, look, I fought against worse odds. You know, I've faced, against people far worse than him, but Sansa keeps reiterating, you don't know him like I do. And then Jon says, well, what are we supposed to do? Just let our Rickon die, our brother die? And Sansa tells Jon a hard truth. She's like, Rickon is not going to make it out of this. He's Ned Stark's trueborn son. You're a bastard. I'm a girl. Ramsay's never going to let him live. And that was a hard truth he had, for anyone to hear, that your brother's going to die. But Jon then goes to see Melisandre, and he basically says to her, listen, if I fall, do not bring me back. Melisandre says, no, whatever the Lord tells me to do, I'm going to do. But then there was a nice little scene with Davos and Tormund Giantsbane. They kind of bonded and talked about how much, they're fallen kings and how much they love them. Davos says how much he loves Stannis. Tormund talks about how much he loved Mance. But then Davos is walking alone, and this is one of the things I've been waiting to happen. He comes across some kind of rubble. It's the place Shireen was sacrificed. He looks down and he finds, as a lot of us thought and suspected, the toy, the stag that he made Shireen, picks it up and he just looks in horror. He realizes what happened. He knows she was put to the flames, and this is where I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant because this is something I care very passionately about. Okay, I know Stannis gave the order and he gave the okay, and I know the buck stops with the leader. I understand that. However, you cannot say, in my opinion, Melisandre has zero culpability in it by just saying she was following orders. That's what the Nazis said at Nuremberg. That's what Eichmann said in 61 at his trial when they finally caught him. I've watched this trial many times, and that was basically his entire defense was, I was following orders. I'm sorry, when you commit a crime against humanity or just do something truly evil, that excuse just doesn't cut it. And I'm going to be very upset if Melisandre's only repercussion of what she's done is that she had a crisis of faith. But, we'll see. So, on to the battle. So, we see both armies, and before the battle goes underway, Ramsay presents Rickon, and he says to Rickon, we're going to play a game. You run to your brother and see if you can make it. Rickon starts running, Jon gets on a horse, starts running towards Rickon, but Ramsay starts shooting arrows. And the first couple miss, maybe deliberately, but right as Rickon is about to reach Jon, an arrow goes right into him, killing him, and it was so sad to see. I know Rickon hasn't been featured super prominently in the first 3 seasons, but he still was a Stark, and to see a young boy die like that was pretty tragic. I felt terrible. So Jon's pissed. The battle commences. It's on their way. There's all kinds of carnage, chaos. When the Giants fighting, there was a great moment with Davos where he leads a charge of men, and it kind of reminded me a little of the Battle of Stirling in the movie Braveheart a little bit. Bodies are just piling up, but in the end, the Bolton army has Jon's army surrounded, and it looks like they're going to win. Jon's on the ground. Looks like he might even die again. Things don't look good, but then we hear a horn. In come the Knights of the Vale. That's who Sansa sent the Raven to 2 episodes ago. A lot of us suspected that. She didn't tell Jon. They come to save the day. They start taking out the Bolton army. Ramsay just is in shock. He can't believe this is happening. So finally, he retreats back to Winterfell with some of his men, and he's like, look, we have this fortification here. They don't have the men. We can just wait it out. But then we hear banging on the gates. It's Wun the Giant. He breaks through, which was great, but Ramsay's men start shooting him full of arrows, and finally Ramsay shoots him with an arrow right in the eye, killing him. That was sad. Goodbye, Wun. But Jon's pissed, and Ramsay says, look, you want to do this one-on-one? I'll agree to that now. So he starts shooting arrows at Jon. Jon has a shield, blocks all of Ramsay's shots, and he finally gets his hands on Ramsay, and he starts pounding away, which I was loving and cheering. But right before he kills him, he stops, looks at Sansa, and he realizes if anyone deserves to kill him, it's her. He stops. We then see Bolton banners coming down, Stark banners going back up in Winterfell, but then we see Melisandre give this smirk, which really, really irritated me. But then we see Davos holding this toy he gave to Shireen, and he looks at Melisandre with a very grim look, like, I'm going to get you, which I was happy about. So we're in the courtyard. Jon's presented with Rickon's body, and he says he's going to bury him next to Ned, his father, which I think is very appropriate in the crypts below Winterfell. Then Sansa comes and says to Jon, where is he? Where is Ramsay? She goes to see Ramsay. Ramsay is like, starts taunting her. He's like, even though our time is over, I'll always be a part of you. And Sansa goes, no, You will be forgotten, your house will be forgotten, your name will be forgotten, your memory, everything about you will be forgotten. And as she's talking, his hounds that he mentioned earlier in the episode start surrounding him. And he says, they're never going to harm me. They're very loyal animals. She says, that's true. But as you said so yourself, you have not fed them in a week. So one goes up to him, and he says, down, down. They start gnawing away at Ramsay, and all the hounds just start to devour him, and it was glorious. It was very apropos. It was how he deserved to go out, and I loved every second of it. I thought it was very fitting. Sansa walks away, and I said, looking very strong, and I said before the season started, she really deserved to have a good season after everything that's happened to her, and she has for the most part. So, goodbye Ramsay. That's everything I was happy about. I was very happy about that. But overall, I thought it was a very good episode. Most of the reviews I've read or watched have been mostly positive. A couple people have, disagreed with me and didn't think it was as good as I did. But everyone's right to their opinion. Do I think it's as good as my favorite episode, Blackwater? No, but I think some of that has to do with Stannis being in Blackwater, and Stannis was my favorite character. But I think this was it lived up to being an episode 9. It was very epic. I enjoyed it. Looking forward to the finale next week. A little sad, though, because it's the end of the season, which I think has been really good. But I'm excited to see what happens. So, yep, that's what I thought of the episode. I thought it was really good. Let me know what you think. Subscribe to DTV, and I will see you guys next week. See ya.